In 1978, a single phone call convinced 918 people to kill their own children and themselves in less than an hour. And it was all recorded. Every second, every scream, every lie. Stay with me until the end, and you'll hear the actual audio recordings from that final day, the moment when paradise became hell, and you'll understand how one man convinced nearly 1,000 people to follow him into death willingly. 1955, Indianapolis. A young preacher named Jim Jones is doing something dangerous, running the only racially integrated church in a segregated city. But this isn't about equality, not even close. This is about control, absolute control. Jones had already been practicing death rituals since childhood, conducting elaborate funerals for dead mice in his family's barn. His neighbors called him strange. They had no idea how right they were. By 1965, Jones convinced 140 followers to abandon everything, to leave their homes, families, lives, and move to California. He told them it was the only place safe from nuclear war. But Jones had a different kind of destruction in mind. It all started with what looked like miracles, but they were just tricks. Jim Jones seemed like a caring preacher, but he was hiding something much darker. At his church, people watched as he pretended to heal the sick. Imagine a crowded room, everyone waiting to see something amazing. Jim would reach into someone's shirt and pull out what looked like a tumor, but it was really just a piece of chicken liver he had hidden there earlier. People cheered. They believed he had special powers. But the truth, it was all fake, just an act to make people trust him even more. Volunteers were sometimes planted in the audience, ready to fall to the ground on cue, pretending they had been touched by divine power. But Jim's secrets didn't stop there. He wanted to know everything about everyone who came into his church, so he hired people to find out private details about their lives. Whenever he told someone their deepest secrets in front of a crowd, it wasn't magic. It was just that he had spies, even family members, digging up dirt for him. He used their secrets to control them, to scare them, to keep them quiet. Jones even made people fill out personal forms, disguised as church records, but really meant to gather leverage against them. As time went on, Jim's power grew. In the 1970s, he became an important person in politics. When he got a big job helping with housing in San Francisco, lots of other leaders wanted his support. Just one phone call from Jim could bring hundreds of votes. So, politicians hoped, begged, to keep him happy. He had photographs with top politicians, the mayor, and even future Vice President Walter Mondale. People thought he must be legit, right? But behind the scenes, things kept getting stranger and stranger. Jim started making his followers do what he called white nights, tests, where people had to drink something that might be poison. They never knew if it was real or just another practice, another test, another trap. It was like a scary game, a sick ritual. And Jim wanted to see who would still obey him. No matter what, the audience would sit in silence, sipping the drink, their hearts pounding, waiting for someone to fall over. Jim watched their faces, cold, intense, with quiet satisfaction. In 1977, some reporters wrote stories about the bad things happening in Jim's church. When people started asking questions, Jim decided to run away with his group. He moved them all to a faraway place in the jungle of Guyana. In South America, he called it Jonestown, promising everyone a perfect new life. Over 900 people packed up, left home, and followed him into the wild, hoping for paradise. He said they were building the future, a socialist utopia where racism, poverty, and hate couldn't touch them anymore. But when they got there, life was not what they expected. Everyone had to work long hours under the hot sun, exhausted, hopeless. The food was bad, and there were men with guns watching them all the time. Letters home were checked, phone calls were listened to, every word, every breath, controlled. It was almost impossible to reach anyone outside. Even birthdays were forgotten, and laughter became rare. There was no joy in Jonestown, only duty and fear. Kids had it even worse. Most parents saw their children only once a week. Jim told the kids that he was their real father and said their parents were enemies. Children were made to spy on their parents, and any sign of disobedience was reported to Jones immediately. By November 1978, something unusual happened. Jim's adopted son, Stephen, and some young men traveled to Georgetown, the nearby city, for a basketball game. They didn't know it yet, but this trip would save their lives. Jones didn't like sports, but he allowed the game, maybe to distract Stephen or to pretend life was normal. Back in Jonestown, Jim was losing control. He was taking too many pills and thought everyone was plotting against him. Then, the biggest threat arrived. A United States congressman named Leo Ryan came to see what was really going on. He brought reporters and families, hoping to rescue loved ones. Jones greeted Ryan with forced smiles and an uncomfortable sermon about loyalty and sacrifice. The place looked clean, the kids were smiling, and a big meal was ready. But while they acted happy, some people slipped secret notes to the visitors. "Please help us get out." One note, scribbled in shaky handwriting, simply read, "Don't believe what you see." Ryan said 16 people could leave with him. That made Jim furious. As the group tried to leave by plane, some of Jim's closest followers attacked them at the airstrip. 5 people were killed, including Congressman Ryan and a TV cameraman who caught everything on tape. Others who tried to run were chased into the jungle, shot, or dragged back. No one was allowed to escape judgment. No one. Back in Jonestown, Jim gave one last order. He called everyone to the main area and told them it was time for revolutionary suicide. He said, "They'll come for our children. Death is better than slavery." Helpers mixed a drink with poison, and guards stood by, so no one could run. Armed men circled the pavilion, rifles slung across their backs, their faces blank. Some were crying too. The youngest children were given poison first by their mothers. Older kids drank it, thinking it was medicine. Parents hugged their children as they died. There was no way out. Some screamed. Others prayed. Many just closed their eyes and waited for the end. There are tape recordings from that night. You can hear cries, people begging for their lives, and Jim's calm voice telling them what to do. One woman's voice stands out. She whispers, "Thank you, Dad," showing just how much power Jim had over them. Even in their final moments, some still believed they were doing something noble, something necessary. Meanwhile, Stephen, Jim's son, got a radio call in the city. "It's over. Everyone is dead," his dad said. Stephen's own wife and unborn baby were gone. He survived only because he was at the basketball game. He would carry that guilt and grief for the rest of his life, wondering if he could have stopped it. The next morning, the authorities arrived. Only one woman, Hyacinth Thrash, managed to survive by hiding in the jungle. What they found was heartbreaking. 918 people had died, including 304 children. It was the biggest mass suicide of Americans until 9/11. Bodies lay side by side, some holding hands, others curled up alone. The silence was unbearable. Maybe the most disturbing thing, many people didn't want to die, but they were given no choice. Jim Jones ended his own life after watching his followers die for his dreams. The people who followed Jim weren't weak. They were just looking for hope. Jim used their trust to control them, and his lies turned dreams into disaster. When people say, "Don't drink the Kool-Aid," they're talking about this terrible day. It's important to remember the children didn't choose their fate. They lost their lives because they trusted a man who promised heaven but led them to hell. It wasn't just a cult. It was a tragedy of trust, a betrayal of innocence, and a warning for generations to come. He may be gone, but the pain he caused will never be forgotten.